Welcome to the American Classroom Podcast, where we explore the role of education in building a civil society. I'm Jared Taylor, the host of American Classroom, and I have Lindsay Crosland, my co-host, here with me today. How are you, Lindsay?
Good. Good morning. Thank you.
We're excited to explore the topic of workforce development. And when we talked about this, we couldn't think of someone more interesting on this topic and more involved than Sally Harrison, the president of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. And so welcome, Sally. We're glad that you're here with us today.
Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Sally, for our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
we have listeners that are parents, they're school leaders from both Arizona here where we're recording, but out around the nation as well. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the chamber, maybe a little bit about the chamber, because it's been around for a little while.
Yeah, well, the chamber's been around probably close to 140 years now. I have not been here that long, although some days it feels like it. No, we moved here from Washington State about 21 years ago. We had been coming to Arizona for spring break with the boys, and at some point I caved and said, if the boys want to and I don't have to start over, we'll move. And we got here in June, moved into our house in July 21 years ago. And I thought, if I can survive this first summer, I think we'll be doing okay. I got really bored over the next few months, thinking I was just going to do, baking and crafting and doing some fun stuff for me finally. But I heard my kids talking about the fact that their sock drawers were always full because I was doing laundry all the time for something to do, and figured I should probably go back to work. And what I had been doing in Washington was working for a physical therapy company, and I did the marketing and ran our foundation, and I had been there 20 years. And so I ended up going back into that and worked in Central Phoenix for about 4 years for a company. And because we lived in Mesa, felt like I should know something about Mesa and joined a Rotary Club. And the president of the Rotary Club happened to be the president of the chamber, and called me one night and said, I want you to come work for me. And I'm like, maybe it's time for something different. And it would be much closer to home than Central Phoenix. And so I said yes, and came on board, 17 years ago as the person who was doing all the events. And Charlie retired a couple years later, and the board hired a gentleman named Peter who was with us just over a year and then left with stage 4 glioblastoma. And I kind of begged the board not to replace him because we didn't know. I mean, he was in surgery, and I'm like, I'll step up, I'll do more. Let's just see, if he's able to come back. And he fought for 5 years, but he wasn't able to come back to work. And so about 5.5 months later, they offered me the job, and I said, no, thank you. Well, there's a lot of political and legislative stuff that goes along with the job, and that really wasn't something that excited me, and it certainly wasn't the fun part of the job. But the board said, that they would step up and help, and they would let me hire a lobbyist. And a week later, I said, okay. And I got to say, it's been the best job I could imagine, just because it's in Mesa, and Mesa's a really special place. We have great people here.
Really do. That's great. So you've been how long with the chamber now?
I've been at the chamber a little over 17 years, and I've been in this position close to 14.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's been good. I have a great team. I have 5 people that have been with me over 10 years, which is a little unusual, I think, for a chamber. But it's a blessing. It's a big city, and there's a lot of opportunities here.
Yeah, Mesa's come a long way, and I agree that I was born and raised in Mesa as well, so know a lot about the time. I was just telling somebody yesterday when I first remember, growing up in a house, it was like a dirt road east of Val Vista, over there with with the Barney family and
Hmm.
just some wonderful, wonderful families.
Yeah, when we moved here, we moved to Southeast Mesa. There really wasn't much past Power Road,
Hmm.
and now it's kind of the center of the universe.
Yeah, it really
And there's
is.
an
It
airport
it
over
is.
there.
And an
Yeah.
airport. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right.
Um,
So,
yeah, I was
oh,
gonna say that
please.
Mesa has over 500,000 people.
Yeah.
I'd heard the other day that it was more populated than Miami,
Yeah.
and that
It's a big
surprised me.
city.
So it's a big city,
Yeah.
spread out.
Yes. Very
And
spread out.
3 of Heritage Academy schools are in Mesa, and so it's
Yeah.
fun to have.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of opportunity. We look at, the business community as well as, the residents here, and there's just a lot of people and businesses that just want to do something bigger than, their own little world, and they want to be part of something. And I think Mesa offers a lot of opportunities for people to get engaged.
And you
It's
do a
fun.
great job.
Oh,
We've
thank you.
appreciated over the years your support of heritage and education in general, and
It's important.
it is.
We
It
need to
re-
grow our workforce, right?
It really is.
Yeah, we want people to go through education here and then stay and work here,
Yeah.
build a family here.
Yeah, and that. Well, let's dig into that. I mean, one of the paradigms that Heritage operates is this whole idea of in a community, there's an offense and defensive team, and a lot of times a community will be defined by the defensive team, is what I call it. But police and fire,
Hmm.
the courts, right? But they're just kind of keeping the bad guys away, or protecting us from bad stuff.
Hmm.
But the offensive team in a community, we don't talk about that much, but they score the points and they, win the games. That's first and foremost the families,
Hmm.
right? And then you have the faith communities and the schools and the service organizations and the businesses, right?
Hmm.
They score the points, right?
Yeah.
And they have to be a good team to work together. So let's talk about that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Workforce development
Hmm.
is a huge role for, and we're talking mostly in K-12 education here.
Hmm.
The idea, there's a lot of different ways to attack K-12 education, but tell us a little bit about what the chamber is doing in terms of, or at least the chamber members, what their interests are in workforce development, just as a kickoff.
Sure. I think, we've had a lot of opportunities from all of our schools, not just Mesa Public Schools, but the other charters and the other, education partners that we have here, where basically they're looking for mentors. They're looking for people to come in and speak to their classrooms. They're looking for opportunities for their students to have internships. And it's been fun because, we hear from our members that they're looking for those things. And if they don't know that they're looking, once they hear there's, students that need that, then they're open to it. We've, obviously got a large database and a large following, and so we're constantly pushing that information out. And we're connectors. I mean, that's really on all levels. That's what we do, is try and connect people. Businesses are our members, but really we're a people business, right? And we've had a great success in connecting students to potential employers through internships.
Yeah, and I love the point that you're making, because if we have school leaders or teachers or parents that are listening here,
Hmm.
Sally, your point is super important about the businesses want to be involved and they want to help and they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
And so for school leaders that want guest speakers, ask your
Yeah.
local chamber, ask,
Absolutely.
because the businesses do want to share what they know and
yeah.
help. And don't be afraid to ask for a tour of a company. People
Right.
love to show off the cool stuff that they're doing.
And there's
Sometimes
some
they feel
really
like, oh, we
cool
can't
stuff
ask, or we don't
happening
want to
here.
impose on people. But
There's so many cool things. It's funny because I made the mistake years ago of saying what my favorite I wouldn't say company, but building was, and people are like, it's not the art center, and I'm like, listen, Mesa Art Center is beautiful, right? But there's something about when you know that the business is just like working hard to do good things and really setting up their employees to be successful and to provide for their families. We have a company called CMC Steel. commercial metals company. It's in Southeast Mesa, and they manufacture rebar. It's blue collar, but the facility. I mean, you look at it and you're just like, oh my gosh, it just represents hard work, right? And they've expanded over the years. I remember it was probably the first ribbon cutting that I was part of when I started here. So they've been here quite a while. And they're just hardworking, but they want to be part of the community. They give back. And when you see that there's opportunities for young people to join their team, it's pretty impressive, really. You know, They- we have a lot of companies
And
like that.
at the core of business is service.
Right.
We talk about goods and services business, but even people that produce goods like rebar,
Yeah.
it's for a service ultimately
Oh,
that
sure.
helps us all improve our quality of
Sure.
life. And
Well, that company in particular, I mean, I'm going to have to tell them I plugged them. But during COVID, right, the world shut down, and we were doing food distribution with the United Food Bank here in downtown Mesa. And then House of Refuge in Southeast Mesa also was going to do a food distribution. And I'm like, they have plenty of help downtown. I'm going to go on Fridays and help out there. CMC Steel literally had like this group of 8 to 10 people that would go, a bunch of guys that would go from their plant to House of Refuge. And I want to say it was 3 times a week to literally help pack the food boxes. And then Friday mornings before the food distribution, they would go out and move everything outside. So people like me didn't have to pack and pick up those boxes. But it was impressive because literally they did that for almost a year. It
Wow.
just wanted to be
Good
part
for
of the
them.
community and just give back. We have lots of companies like that.
That's great.
That they just get it, right? That is what being part of a community means.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that those school trips, tours, the business tours are so important because I feel like it gives all these kids exposure to things that are out of their peripheral, right? Like,
Oh, sure.
they're
You would
so
never
say your
be able to
parent,
dream
yeah,
about
say your
that
parents an
plant, right?
accountant, say your parent, I don't know, whatever they do, and then maybe you go to the dentist, you get exposure to, then your teachers
Sure.
exposure. So when they can go see a manufacturing plant, or they get to go tour an airport, or
Right.
they get to go to these businesses and see what's out there, it really
Yes.
expands their horizons. And then I feel like that's one of the most important parts of workforce development is just the exposure to. If they don't have any introduction to it, don't get
Sure.
to see what's happening in the community,
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll like grow their interests and also their desire to be involved in the community.
Right.
And how cool is it that company stepped up?
Well, and one of the number
So
one interests at EVIT, the East Valley Institute of Technology, which for those that don't know that in Arizona is probably the premier career technical high school education facility here.
Right.
For young men, I think their number one interest is welding,
I think that's
heavy manufacturing.
It's been that, and I think it continues to be
It
that.
continues, yeah.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
those that look at a heavy manufacturing place like a rebar production facility is like, how uninteresting is that?
Right.
It's very interesting to
Yeah.
young people that are inclined to work in the trades, to work in that. Take them on a tour. I mean,
Yeah.
they may find their future or something exciting there.
Yeah, and I think that I was listening to something this morning that was talking about it's a myth that kids don't want to work with their hands. Like, I think anyone understands that working with your hands is very, valuable. It's worthwhile. It's fulfilling. And so I think that, I mean, maybe not for every single person,
Sure.
but obviously in these programs, these career tech programs, like
Mhm.
youth really do like getting their hands dirty, so to speak.
Well, and learning something, right? Learning a trade of some kind. I think
Sure.
that's valuable and long lasting.
Mhm.
You never know. You might pick something up and then change and go back to that. Yeah, it's been a real blessing to the city of Mesa and the surrounding
They continue to
communities.
be,
Yeah.
right? I want to ask you a question. If let's say, Sally, we are sitting down 3 years in the future
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about workforce development. What would take between now and that point in the future for you to be real happy of the progress that our community has made in workforce development?
To have more businesses understand the need to get students in, um, just for the exposure, like you said, uh, how do you know as a student unless your parents or relatives or neighbors maybe or people at church have told you about something, but to see it and understand it and then realize I love this, I want to do it, or "Ooh, that's not for me," right? But to have the opportunity to have that connection so you can make that decision. um, we've still got businesses that haven't stepped up. They haven't been asked to step up, right? I think that's probably what needs to happen more than just about anything is that we've got uh, a message that is getting out to people of the importance of inclusion and having opportunities to get those students in those doors so they understand what's happening at could be a manufacturing, it could be a CPA, it could be a bank, right? I I think there's something for everybody,
Hmm.
but that's probably the thing now that I know there's more and more students every year that want opportunities to get in for an internship or just to shadow somebody even, right?
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of businesses out there that are doing it, but there's still Mesa's a big city. I
What do
mean,
you think some of the biggest obstacles are in getting to that point?
so I know through Mesa Public Schools that they had some businesses that felt like they couldn't take a 17-year-old. They needed to have an 18-year-old
Oh,
student.
okay.
I also know that we've over time debunked that myth, right? That
Yeah.
they found ways, and I will say if Honeywell and Boeing can do that and get those younger students in and be able to put them to work, as an intern, and then turn around and hire some of them, I'm pretty sure every other
Huge.
business has an opportunity to do that too, right? I get that, there's certain things that students can't do or touch that, might be an obstacle. But if those big businesses can figure that out,
Mm.
it's probably doable
They
for
could probably do
everybody.
it. Yeah. They've got the lawyers to understand that it is legal and
Exactly.
it's appropriate
Well,
under certain conditions and
exactly.
purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, just the opportunity to get into a business like that and set your path for the next
Hmm.
however many years. Uh, that's pretty impressive.
Hmm. What do you think? Who do you think some of the gold standard um, company? You mentioned Honeywell and
Hmm.
Boeing. What are there other companies that you've seen really shine in terms of
Yeah.
bringing in the K-12 space to understand and explore?
Yeah. Empire Southwest
Oh,
has done a
nice.
really great job
Mm.
of their internship program and working to get students into the program. And, they have their own instructors there that are running those programs. So I think that's important.
Mm.
Would
I
that be things like forklift operators and do you know what kind of programs they have there?
I'm not quite sure exactly what they're doing, but I know that there's a handful of different opportunities. I mean, even big businesses that are manufacturers probably still have office work, right?
Inventory's got to be counted and or things, the
There's
equipment moved
lots of different
around, and
things.
yeah.
I mean, the idea of having an intern is not to have them come in and file papers, right?
Hmm.
We've I couldn't even tell you. We've had dozens of interns since I've been at the chamber. And right now I want to say we have four. I I they come and go
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I pass them in the halls. But they're doing work and having an intern at the chamber is also a great opportunity because when we have events, we're encouraging them to be part of the event and be, there with us and work the event so they get to meet other businesses. And then, of course, if they're like, well, I saw that this is a business that you guys work with, it's like, let's make an introduction.
Mm,
It's been fun.
that's great.
Having young people around is just, it's, it's fun. It's uplifting, and they come with different ideas. And I think most people at this point need to understand that they have really good creative ideas. And I lean on that a
Hmm.
lot at the chamber anyway.
I was watching a video. Somebody was interviewing one of these billionaire interview kind of things. And they say, well, what's your secret? He goes, I hire young people. He
Right?
goes, because they have the new ideas. It's the new market. He goes,
Yeah.
I want to be around them because that's who I'm really selling to. I think he
Yeah.
was in the textiles retail
Mm. Mm-hmm.
clothing type space. And
Sure.
he's like, that's why I
Yeah.
want as many interns. I want as many young people in as possible because they're, letting me know what's going on out there.
Right.
What are people buying and what they're interested in? And not
And,
every industry is
and they're hard
that much, but
workers.
they are. Yeah.
They really are. I mean, I've got three people now that are employees that are, fairly young. I'd say 25, 26 or younger.
Nice.
And they're creative. They're not watching the clock. They're just hard workers. And it's exciting. I
Yeah, there's
count
some
on
that
them to
slack, but
teach
there's
me
a
new
lot
things
that
all the time.
I know they know technology really well,
Oh, yeah.
which is great.
Yes. Yeah. I'm counting on them all the time to set things up for meetings
And
because
when,
it's not
Lindsay and
me.
I just had a chance to talk to one of our English classes that it has a focus on career technical writing. So they get resumes prepared. And I'm not sure what they asked you, but they asked me a lot of questions about how do I get my first job? I don't have any experience. Or
Mm-hmm.
what does that employer, how can I get an edge? And I really hit internships a lot.
Yeah.
I said, go ask for an internship, go ask to volunteer, go ask to just do an informational interview.
Well, the other piece, like you just said, volunteering, though, it could be volunteering at a nonprofit
Sure.
in your church, whatever, just to get the experience of being around people. I love the idea of people going out and volunteering. I mean,
It's
there's
huge.
a need, right? And there's all kinds of ways to volunteer. And so, yeah, I look at that as much as their experience at work.
When I was in college, I wanted to be a physical therapist. I was at a time when the industry was just changing quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit and it just wasn't. So I changed over to business and I wanted to be more in human resources.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no background or anything. So that's what I did is I went over just down the street here, the old Wells Fargo building. Maricopa County had like a job training program. And I
Nice.
said, can I just volunteer a couple times a week or, a couple hours a week? And they said, sure. Yeah. So I'd sit down and I'd help these young people
That's nice.
write resumes or old people. In fact,
Yeah.
my most rewarding experience there was I helped this guy. Well, they said, well, here's someone. Why don't you help him write a resume? I said, okay, great. So we sat down. I said, well, tell me a little bit about yourself and what have you been doing the
Yeah.
last couple of years so I can get an idea how to shape this. And he goes, well, I just got out of jail. I
Oh.
said, oh, okay. What was it for? And it was for a pretty serious crime.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. I said, well, let's talk about your skills. What do you like to do? Anyways, we got a resume. He went out for an interview and he came back. He was so excited. He got a job.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they didn't pay me for that work, but it's one of the most rewarding things that
Sure.
I'd ever done. And
Yeah.
you know what? It got me some experience. And, eventually I got
Here you
into the
are.
industry. And, so don't discount volunteer.
Yeah, no, I still do
It's a
that in my
big
free
deal.
time. I actually help people develop their resume who need help or like, find a
Nice.
job.
Great.
And it is very rewarding. That's kind of what I talked to the English class about was building your resume, what needs to be on it, how to interview, but also like take it. You don't have to have a job in high school to show that you have initiative
Mhm.
or reliability. Like I talked about the value of starting something, whether you start a club, if it's a chess club, or
Mhm.
starting to collect backpacks for
Yeah.
youth that are in need, so you don't even have to find a food bank to volunteer with, right? Like you can start and show initiative yourself.
Yeah.
And that's valuable to employers. And so that was kind of like a little bit of what we talked about.
Yeah. So, Sally, you mentioned maybe a misunderstanding of the legal space. I can't hire younger people or bring them in. Is there any other major obstacles you're seeing in, the partnership between K-12 and,
I think transportation
oh, okay.
is
Yeah.
an issue for some, right? Especially in Mesa. Really, we don't have public transportation past power roads. So getting to where we have all the growth in Southeast Mesa has been, I think, a little bit of a challenge. If schools have buses, obviously that's an option, but not everybody can take a bus to Southeast Mesa kind of thing,
Yeah.
I do think that might be a little bit for some
Yeah,
people.
that's fair. I know the Valley Metro system offers some discounted bus passes to school districts and charter schools, to help their
That's helpful.
children get around. I wonder if there's opportunities there that might be
I keep,
investigated.
keep asking our city council to work on getting
Oh,
Valley Metro out Southeast Mesa because it really it's where all the growth has been
yeah,
in the last dozen years or so, and there's just really not a lot. And that wouldn't even be just for students, but any employee that needs
sure.
transportation to get
hmm
out there.
Yeah, transportation is a big one. Yeah,
Hmm.
What's available for youth? Like, say the school they went to didn't quite prepare them or help them kind of figure out, or their family didn't help them kind of figure out what they want to do after they're
Mm-hmm.
done in the K-12 space.
Yeah,
Like, where would they go for help, or what would they do to figure out what do I want to do? Like, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to go to college.
it's a good question.
If the K-12 space is doing what they should and
Hmm.
exposing them to
Right.
different career paths,
Hmm.
whether or not includes college, right? But like finding what's a good fit for them, then I feel like,
College isn't for everybody.
yeah.
I mean, it is just, it isn't. And some of our students, frankly, would probably do better going to EVIT and getting a degree or a certification.
Mhm.
I've heard some incredible stories how, some of these students are leaving EVIT with a certification and then
hmm
going out and making more than a lot of adults that I know
Oh,
are
sure.
making, right? Um, that's a great option. I can't imagine being saddled these days with the, student loans
hmm
that some of these kids are making. I have a relative who um, has the most student loans that I can
Oh boy.
imagine.
Yeah.
And, I don't
You
know
get
how
it if they're
you,
going to be a doctor
right,
or a dentist or something, but
right,
for some of the majors that don't have those same returns,
exactly.
that's a challenge.
That's tough. Yeah. And then depending on where you end up living,
Well,
that's hard.
Lindsay, you're talking about a really important point, discovery, and then the chamber, connecting with volunteers. That's a great way to go. I
There's
talk to the
so
scholars
many
as well. I'm like,
opportunities.
if you think you might be interested, just go volunteer for a week or so, or shadow someone.
Yeah.
There really is some good online tools as well. But young people really need to kind of find out who they are. Do I
Hmm.
like to work with my mind, or do I like to work with my hands, or
Hmm.
maybe a little bit of both? And
Right.
years ago, I took my daughters to the library and did an old exercise that I can't remember the name of it. What color's your parachute? Remember that
No.
old job search book? There used to be
No.
this old job search book called "What Color's Your Parachute." We'll link it in the show notes. But he had this really great exercise that cost no money. We went to the library and I said, "All right, my oldest daughter's name's Sydney." I said, "Sydney, go to the magazine section and bring me back. Just spend about 10, 15 minutes and pull off the top 10, 12 most interesting magazines or newspapers that you see,
Hmm.
and then come back." And so she brought them back, and I said, "Okay, now put them in order, most interesting to least interesting." These are all things she was largely interested in.
Hmm.
And so she did that, and then we walked down each one. I said, "Well, why is that interesting to you? And why is that?" Just to kind of talk a little bit more,
Yeah.
dig a little bit more. And her top ones were science. She really liked biology, and then she
Really?
liked a little bit of business. And I said, "Okay, great." And then I said, "All right, now let's just take like the top 3 or 4 and to kind of zero in there,
Hmm.
and let's talk a little bit about and let's open the pages of those, and all the advertisers are potential places you want to apply for an internship, maybe." Because it's
Nice.
in your field that's
Yeah.
like interesting to you, and
Right.
these are the ones interested in this, and they're and then these articles, and kind of inspire you. And so there's a little no cost, low cost type
That's
way that you
interesting.
can help people discover
So what
what
did
they
she end up
like.
doing?
Well, she's an accounting major now.
The science of accounting.
Yeah, exactly. She still likes science and it still
Oh, that's
fascinates her,
fun.
but she's like, I think it's more hobby than
Hmm.
but business was up there. She
Yeah.
goes, I did like that, and
Nice.
she found that she loves things in their right place.
Uh-huh.
So
That
That's a
sounds
great,
like an accountant.
yeah, but that's a
yeah,
great exercise. I like that idea. I think some youth, they feel compelled to maybe follow in their parents' footsteps. So like I have a
Sure.
cousin who his dad's an engineer. He became an engineer and then he was like, I hate this. I
Mm.
hate it. And he decided he really wanted to go in law enforcement. He did
Yeah.
that for a couple of years, then got recruited to the FBI and
Oh,
he
wow.
works for the FBI and he like loves his job and he's so good at it,
Hmm.
his particular fields of work. And this morning I dropped my car off to get the oil changed. And it's just close by. I just walked over after. And I was asking them, I'm doing a podcast of workforce development. How'd you guys get interested in mechanic? You know, you're a mechanic.
That's cool though.
Um, and I like it as a hobby, but I was like, I want to hear your story. Anyway, but the woman running the front desk is the wife of the owner, and she said, my husband, we got married. He had studied IT and he was working IT, and he was like, I hate this. So he decided to become a mechanic, and then he was able to open a business. She said she was really scared as a young
Sure.
married couple that he was changing careers.
Yeah.
But he followed something. He'd probably not done that discovery, or maybe he was picking up the mechanic magazines, but was like, oh, I feel obligated to work at this desk job in IT.
Yeah.
But she said following his heart, doing something he loved, and then building a business has afforded them like a really great lifestyle, and they've just like been so happy. And so I think it's good to do the discovery early, but it's not too late if you figure out
But
later.
you're not,
Right.
and you're not locked into
Yeah.
it. If you
Right.
say, "Oh, we really like science," but
Yeah.
this is actually going to be what I'm going to study, which is great.
Mhm.
People have more than one interest. So, to our school leaders or teachers or parents that are listening to this, we'd encourage you to work on, studying or help your child understand who they are. Just
Right.
because you're a lawyer or doctor or work with your mind doesn't mean they are. They might, that they
Never
might be
know.
inclined to that.
Mm-hmm.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but sometimes they might want to
Sometimes.
work in their hands,
Yeah.
and that's okay too. A
Right.
good friend of mine is a big sales rep at Microsoft, and he always reminds me, yes, we actually have a search engine called Bing, because nobody uses it. But his son, it loves auto mechanics,
Oh
and
gosh.
that was just not in his will. It just
Mhm.
threw him for probably 2 years that his boy is not going to go into
Yeah.
engineering or technology or business or something. He wanted to be an auto mechanic, and that's okay. But once he got his head wrapped around it, he supported it. But
Yeah.
that's a good thing. And that's a huge role that we have in the K-12 is to help our young people set themselves up for success in the workforce with confidence, with tools, with knowledge about who they are
Sure.
and how do they solve problems and how do they process in the world. How do they, in particular, add value? At Heritage, we talk a lot about superpowers. We're heroes, right?
Yeah.
So we say, find what you're good at. And I asked these young people in this class, I said, tell me I had them all write down 2 things they're good at. They're better than anyone else.
Oh. What did you get back?
Well, I didn't ask them to tell me.
Oh,
I
okay.
said, but you need to know what your superpowers are because that's how you're going to add value in the world. That's how, whether it's in a job or in a
Yeah.
company that you start, because your superpower is something that gives you energy. It gives you a distinction in the world,
Yeah.
and you just feel satisfied when you use those
Sure.
those gifts that you've been given because you can offer that, and sometimes you get money for it, and sometimes you just get benefit. And then this girl in the front row, she raises her hand. And she goes, "Well, what if I don't know my superpowers, or what if I don't think I have any superpowers? How would I find them?" She was really shy. She didn't ask any questions. That was the only question she asked. And I said, "Well, here's what I would do. I would say, why don't you make a list of 5 people that love you and support you and care for you? And it could be your parents or aunts and uncles or grandparents or good friends." I said, and then ask them the question, hey, what do I do really good that's better than other people?
Yeah.
And she goes, that's great. And I go, you'll probably be surprised how many superpowers you have because people look at you and they'll
Sure.
see those gifts in you. And then you can build from there.
Yeah. That's great. That's good advice.
But that's
Yeah.
what we do. That's what business is. You take good things and offer it and
Mm-hmm.
add value to people. But
Yeah. That's great.
Sally, this has been great
Well,
discussion.
thank you.
And thank you for
Appreciate it.
taking the time to come out and
Of
talk for us. Is
course.
there anything you'd like to leave with our listeners about this topic? And
Well, if there are students that, say, oh, I saw this company or, I heard about this new company coming in, we would love to make introductions. I mean, Bob, who works for me, he works with me. He always says, my superpower is connecting people.
nice.
And I feel like I do that as much as I do anything else. And that's the fun part of the job, right? Being able to connect people that, may never have met, but all of a sudden there's something that somebody might need or want to know about and, be able to connect them like that. We've got a lot of businesses that we work with, and there are a lot coming into Mesa that are bringing really new things. Technology is part of it, but there's lots of opportunities for our younger people to get out and explore and learn something new and maybe, identify what their passion is. I, you know, I can make those introductions. I can't imagine anybody saying, I don't want to be a part of, helping a student find what their interests are.
Mhm.
There's a lot of good things happening, and we're just excited to be a part of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's
Yeah.
been
No,
a
thank
pleasure
you.
to catch up with you, and we're
Yeah.
glad that Chamber's
Good to
doing
see you.
well.
Chamber's good. Yeah. We're busy.
Busy, that's right. We're
Busy
recording
is
this, and
busy is good.
that's good. This is March of 2026, which is right in the middle of spring
Spring
training.
training. Yes.
So that's a big deal.
Mesa's second Christmas.
Second, that's right.
Yeah. No, it's good to have two teams here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Congratulations on the success of the
Thank you
Mesa
very
Chamber.
much. Nice
Appreciate you
to be
being.
with you both.
If you like this episode, please like and share with someone who would find this interesting. We appreciate you listening to the American Classroom podcast today.
Thank you.
American Classroom is brought to you by Heritage Academy Mesa. Heritage Academy in Mesa, Arizona is a public charter school serving grades 7 through 12. Youth that come to Heritage are not just students, but scholars who are taught by the #1 rated faculty in Arizona. If you'd like to learn more about Heritage Academy Mesa, please visit heritageacademyaz.com and click Mesa.